Hello everyone, Books with Banks back again with another book review. As promised at the beginning of the summer, I'm continuing through a few trilogies and series, and today we're talking about Book 2 in R.F. Kuang's Poppy War trilogy, The Dragon Republic. I'm only going to do a brief spoiler-free section at the beginning here, just to give my general thoughts on this book and the series so far, but then I'll clearly signal when I move into spoilers. It just gets a little bit too tricky to not spoil at least book one whenever you're reviewing sequels. But here we go. So The Dragon Republic was published by Harper Voyager in 2019. In this sequel, Kuang continues her fast-paced, grimdark, mass atrocity-filled epic inspired by Eastern Asian history and cultures. In the sequel here, Kuang is forcing all of her characters to deal with the fallout of the events and battles of the first book, and the strain that those massive decisions have put on some of these friendships and alliances. Kuang also introduces more characters and factions to flesh out the complicated nature of the main nation's political situation. She also brings in foreign powers representative of Western or European real-world forces. There's quite a bit more of a focus on imperialism and post-colonialism here, certain groups believing they have the right to take over and civilize the more savage parts of the world. Kuang not only expands our understanding of her world, but also of the magic and how different cultures interpret the deities and magical powers differently. I will say, if you're contemplating reading the series, I probably enjoyed book 2 a little bit more than book 1, and I recommend this to anyone who enjoyed book 1. If you haven't read Poppy War, though, I'd recommend the series to anyone looking for fantasy with more of a grimdark edge, more controversial protagonists, and something set outside of the typical medieval Europe style and setting. All that said, again, very brief kind of intro there just to give the general thoughts, non-spoilers, but it's about time now that I switch over to spoilers because I don't want to accidentally spoil anything. So, spoiler warning for Poppy War and Dragon Republic starting now. Okay, so the general synopsis, we open with Rin leading the Psyche, though this doesn't last for long. They've been on these assassination missions, hoping to get support to eventually try to assassinate their main target, the Empress Sudaji. Things go wrong. Rin and her crew are brought into the plans of the Nejas, or of Neja's family, in the Dragon Province to start a civil war to overthrow the Empress. Kind of sounds perfect for their goals, right? Well, not really. They make their move to try to kill the Empress very early on. That fails, and then they have to go back and regroup before ultimately sailing north with their mighty fleet to take on the Empress in an all-out civil war. We also have this fascinating new addition of the Hesperians and their imperial sort of interest in Nicara. The difference between their monotheism and the religion of our protagonists, all very interesting. Yeah, that's kind of the general synopsis, what's going on in this book. And now let's talk about some positives and negatives. We'll start off with the positives. First, I loved how the pacing kept me turning the page. Kuang would introduce a mission or target or goal of some kind, and another author or series might have spent the whole novel building up to any one of those moments or any one of those objectives, but not R.F. Kuang. She introduces a direction for her characters. They go and accomplish that thing within 100 to 200 pages, and then we're still left with a big chunk of the book wondering what could possibly go wrong or what twists are in store to still fill out the next several hundred pages. So pacing, I would definitely put in the positive category. Another positive, some of the side characters, specifically characters like Katai, Neja's father, Vaisra, Neja's whole family, actually. Also, more with Sudaji the Empress and Chegan, the only member of the Psyche that I'll put in the positive kind of section of the characters category. I feel as though Kuang making Rin as frustrating and kind of off-putting as she does basically forces us to look to these other supporting characters to see which we can latch onto and which ones we can root for. All of these characters play around in this really fun moral gray area of kind of which betrayals or atrocities are justified and which are unforgivable. Is it okay to jump ship to work with these people at this point? For what moral reason? And then how can we judge another group for betraying, or how can we claim that another group has betrayed different people when we've done similar things. All of these characters constantly playing around in this uncomfortable area, which I really enjoy. The other major positive I want to talk about, though, is what Kuang does with the Hesperians. Again, this is like the European kind of group. She does a lot with this group or this idea. One thing, she continues the conversation around race and merges that with religion in an interesting way. I'm hoping there's more of this in book 3. But the conversations between Sister Petra and Rin are all super riveting, as Petra is studying the body of Rin and of someone she considers to be a creature of chaos and a savage, with this really twisted and confident, like social Darwinist and racist view of the world. And Rin is actually open to thinking about the world along similar racial lines. Um, kind of reinforcing the reader's frustrations with Ren. But I also really like this deal that Vezra, leading the Dragon Republic, has made with the Hesperians. That should his republic get to the point where they demonstrate their capacity to be civilized and advanced enough, only then will the Hesperians step in to help them win this war against the Empress. And there's this delicious dark irony that they're being asked to demonstrate their sophistication through how successfully they wage war. And the characters in the novel even comment on this bizarre bargain. It's basically like, if you're really good at killing and devastating your own nation in a civil war, then that will prove to us that you're civilized and will step in to help you finish the job. It's extremely twisted, but also extremely representative of real-world imperial thinking. What this bargain does, though, is it subverts that genre trope where you're expecting that one other army or person to show up at the 11th hour to triumphantly sweep in and save the day, like the Ride of the Rohirrim in Lord of the Rings, or Han showing up at the end of Star Wars. So what Kuang has done here, what I really love most about this book, is that at the end, when even though Phelan, kind of a big bad mini boss monster, has been defeated and the Empress has fled the battlefield, it seems like the Imperial militia is still about to defeat the Republic. Rin and Nezha might be on the verge of death. But then, yay, the Hesperians show up to save the day. But by this point, Kuang has been teasing and pulling at different threads about how much of a threat they are in their own right and how unsettling their more devoted involvement in this war might actually be now. So we're not super happy when they show up to triumphantly save the day. It's not a fist-pumping moment. I think Kuang deliberately set this up, and I think it works brilliantly. I also like the end, as tragic and sad as it is. Nezha betraying Rin wasn't the most surprising thing, but the staging of it, the way that the whole chapter was written, how Rin and Katai and the rest of the psych are about to escape, just a few more hours, it all hit the right notes, the right tension. And I'm excited to see where we go next in book 3. But I do have some negatives here. First, I'll start off with some of the other characters that I really felt were let down a little bit. As sad as it was to see characters like Baji, Suni, and Ramza die right at the end, I still didn't feel like I had a great connection with them, nor did I have much of a connection with any of the other Psych characters, other than Chagan, really, who either died or fled earlier in the book. I kind of felt like a lot of this book was just getting all of those characters out of the way. And speaking of the Psych, for as much as Rin obsesses over the loss of Alton from the end of book 1, and some of the other characters obsess over him as well, I really could care less. Maybe I'm in the minority here, and Alton's sacrifice was more impactful for some of you, but I really felt such a small connection to his character that it gets pretty annoying and repetitive how much time we still spend talking about it and fighting about it. And sure, the seal that Daji puts on Rin only reinforces this and sort of magically makes Alton's sacrifice constantly on everyone's mind, but I'm honestly surprised that this is the moment that seal thing would try to get Rin caught up in. Basically, I was ready to move on and not really think about Alton after I finished the first book, so it made some of this book a bit dull when we kept returning to those scenes. Also, with the character of Phelan, who promised to be this big threat at the end of book one, he kind of functioned as a mini boss or some dangerous threat that just had to be dealt with, and at times I felt like Kuang didn't really know what to do with him. He amounted to nothing more than if the militia had just built like a really powerful weapon that could destroy the Republic ships. So him being a freed and unshackled god, I don't know, there just didn't seem to be that much of a point there. Last but not least, while I did say that I kind of like how our frustrations with Rin force us to pay more attention to the other fascinating characters and world building of the novel, I do think there are times where Rin really regresses. Basically, everything after she gets out of school in book one, and then all throughout this book, a lot of her superior intellect and her problem solving skills, and the fact that she was like almost studying under Irja, the strategy guy, a lot of that really fascinating and brutal intelligence sort of gets lost. She seems far more gullible and disorganized and impulsive than I ever would have predicted based on what she was set up to be back when she was in school. Of course, I understand some of this has to do with the opium, and some of it is also her dealing with the trauma and her guilt over her actions at the end of the first book. But it doesn't always feel right that she is this impulsive or this gullible. All that said, I really did like this book, especially what we're exploring with the Hesperians here. Maybe I wish there was a bit more follow-up on the repercussions of Ren's and Chagan and Kara's mass atrocities at the end of book one, but maybe some of that is still to come. I would hate for those to just be left at shocking moments without much further exploration of the race components, the mindsets of people committing genocide or survivors of genocide. There wasn't really much of that in this book, or not as much as I was hoping for. Hopefully more in book three. So all that said, if you've watched up to this point in the video, I assume you've read at least the first two books. Please let me know your thoughts on these books and the series down below in the comments. Any predictions for how you think I might feel about the third book? Feel free to share those as well. All in all, I'm really enjoying my time with the series, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.